Why? A vague disclaimer is no one's friend. This podcast will look at episodes in relation to Buffy and Angel as a whole, and therefore contains spoilers for the entirety of both series. If you haven't seen all of Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel the series, go and watch them before you listen to this. Remember, you've been warned.
The hardest thing in this world is to live in it.
That's why there's us, champions. We live as though the world were as it should be, to show it what it can be.
The Earth is definitely doomed.
It's Tuesday, so it must be time to return to the Hellmouth. We're going through the Buffyverse episode by episode and a look back at Joss Whedon's iconic show. I'm Emcee, and I'm here with...
This is Andie.
And this is David.
Hi, this is Jan.
And I'm Logan.
So, we're into the second season now, and the second season is much bigger than the first season, so we felt we needed to get some more people onto this podcast. So, Jan and Logan, how about you take a couple minutes to introduce yourselves to our wonderful audience?
Okay, hi, I'm Jan. I have been a Buffy fan for, I want to say, 17 years. I actually got into the show late, so I can talk about that a little bit if MC wants. I actually tried to watch it when it first started, and I'd seen the movie, loved the movie, expected the show to be like the movie. It wasn't, kind of got sidetracked. And then several years later, I had a friend who was obsessed with Willow and Oz. I guess that's a spoiler. And the fallout thereof. And in order to figure out what she was talking about, I actually started watching the show. I got into it when FX first started their rerun, so I was watching first season and also season 6, which had just started on UPN concurrently. So I kind of it was a weird kind of timey-wimey thing, and I've learned to love it, and so I'm a Buffy fan.
I've been watching Buffy for about 18 years. Over winter break, when I was in, elementary school, I caught the movie on HBO, and I remember seeing it because I'd been watching Dawson's Creek, which maybe was inappropriate for a 10-year-old, but I started watching it about midway through the season we'll be covering for the foreseeable future. And I didn't necessarily know exactly what was going on, but I caught on pretty quickly. And I've been fairly obsessed ever since. So, yeah.
We also have our podcast kitten. I don't know if you can hear her or not, so she's with us today. Her name is River Tam.
Hi, River Tam.
So, like I said, we're into season 2. This is episode 1, When She Was Bad. It originally aired September 15th, 1997. It was written and directed by our man Joss. And so, When She Was Bad, which, the first thing that actually strikes me is, the ginormousness of the cemetery that I can actually see stuff from. Like, you can definitely tell that they're on a soundstage now. And I mean in a good way.
Right. I think the thing that stands out to me as far as set design in this first episode is it sort of sets the tone for the preponderance of conveniently sharp tree branches around the cemetery.
Yes.
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 I was like, that's lucky.
Or construction sites that have a thing sticking out. Yeah.
Maybe
so many helpful
Giles
weapons.
just goes around to different cemeteries, just sharpens branches.
Now I want a fan fiction of that. I really do. Like,
this is how to make your life easier.
Yeah.
And that or they have elves that just keep setting up, convenient things to make sure they can get rid of the vampire population.
Well, it's not leprechauns, because we know that's the one thing that does not exist in the Buffyverse.
Right.
Right. Right.
I also did notice that Willow is a little bit more fashionable than she was last season. The lime green is a bit much, but it was the 90s. Everything was a bit much.
Yeah, I did notice because, that's one of the things, Willow being probably my favorite character on the show, the fashionable arc of Willow Rosenberg. She's starting to get a little bit more cute these days. Not that she's never cute, but she's more fashionably cute.
She's also a little redder, her hair. Yeah, because the first season she was just kind of like brown. And everybody called her a redhead, but it's like, no, she really was not.
She's like more fashionable, so fashionable that even Xander noticed for a whole 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I noticed that was that scene at the beginning. I was like, my note is Xander and Willow make me sad.
Yeah.
Because
They
it's
are
like
sort of
they have
sad.
that like one moment and then well, yeah, that's gone now. And it's like,
The scene at the beginning was actually not bad. Like, they actually seemed to be interacting as friends, and, like, they were teasing each other, and it's like, oh, this is really nice. And then it got super uncomfortable because of that fucking ice cream. It's like...
I do love that, like, they're playing this, movie quote game, and he just shoves ice cream on her face and calls her Amish. Like, it's a good joke, but then and I think this was the portion in my life where I'm like, oh yeah, I totally ship that. And by the end of the episode, it's like, nope, no, I don't.
Yeah,
Nope,
3 episodes from now, nobody's going to be shipping it. Because
Exactly. Well, I mean, one of the things in my notes here is like repeatedly, it's just Xander is a weenie, Xander is a weenie, Xander is a weenie. And not going to get any better. I know this.
In terms of this episode, I actually was not terribly bothered by Xander. I mean, there's a couple of moments, but out of everything we've seen from him, he wasn't too bad in this.
Yeah.
Ooh, I've got several notes.
My Xander watch list, I'm like, how problematic is Xander? I don't really have anything. I mean, he's still pining for Buffy, and he's dumb when it comes to Willow, but he doesn't do anything, like, super egregious, and he's actually really stands up to Buffy in a productive way. Well, sort of. He's mad.
Yeah,
but
my frustration is just the way he's treating Willow, because you have this really cute like chemistry moment, and then she tries to recreate it later in the bronze,
right?
And he's totally oblivious. And it's like the fact that he's hurting, and that the whole bronze scene, which I guess we'll talk about later, but just like the look on her face and the way he behaves. I mean, Buffy's bad too, but it's just this is like Xander to the nth degree. It's the beginning of the problems I have with him.
Yeah, no, that scene that really, it's like, and then I'm now developing this theory that in an alternate universe where Buffy doesn't show up, Xander and Willow work out fine, so it's all Buffy's fault.
Are you sure it's not that middle-aged vampire man who got really close to their face? Are you sure it's not his fault?
Well, okay, that could have gone badly as well, but
and also I know Buffy is kind of a jerk in this episode, though I actually have some feelings about that later. But she's super right on they don't have crosses and they don't have stakes. It's like, you guys live on the fucking Hellmouth. Like, what is your problem?
Yeah, they should be always carrying sharp, pointy objects no matter where they go, and a crucifix or two.
Yeah, I mean, they've obviously been lulled into a false sense of complacency over the summer because there hasn't been monster activity, which leads me to questions like, do vampires take summer breaks as well?
Well, I'm wondering if they were still trying to figure out the mythology about everything, whether or not Buffy is really kind of affecting, like, the Hellmouth, because it does seem like there is this whole thing of, in the first season, everything with the Master only kind of starts with Buffy, and it only starts up again because Buffy comes back. Meanwhile, when you get to season 3, you actually see that the vampires are just running rampant while she's gone, and actually that is the problem, that the Scoobies have to pick up Buffy's slack. So, I mean, I don't know if it was kind of just a change in tone, or if it was just the vampires, like, are able to work a lot better amongst themselves after,
Yeah, no, I agree with you, MC, because I mean that Buffy even says it. It's like it's almost as if they know I'm here. So I think the original mythology may have actually been that she's kind of the catalyst and she's back, so they're back. And then later they switched it.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that, after the Master is, slayed by Buffy, I think the vampires needed some time to regroup, which could also explain why they kind of, it's, summer vacation isn't that long. It's like 2.5 months really. So maybe they're like starting their plan and doing their research and, kind of formalizing around the Anointed One, and like this new terrible vampire Absalom comes. He's terrible. Ugh. That is like a terribly not menacing vampire.
I actually kind of like him. He's got great dialogue.
He's the preacher man.
Right?
Yeah,
the preacher man. I thought his dialogue was like subpar Muhammad Ali rhyming because he's like,
Well-
I'm gonna grind you into a sticky paste and smash in your face, and I'm like, dude, really? I mean, I love Muhammad Ali, but that is subpar. Like,
I guess for me, it's just so hilariously over the top that it's just like, oh, he's a lot of fun. But I'm glad he doesn't last past this episode.
Yeah, I really felt like with this one, the vampire scenes, they so badly wanted the master scenes, but they don't have Mark Metcalf anymore.
and it was, I read some trivia, and I don't know if it's 100% true that David.
Oh
put on
yeah,
the
David
master
Boreanaz,
mask.
it's totally true.
You actually can see it in the dream sequence when he's choking her. I read the same bit of trivia, and I looked, and I'm pretty sure that's David Boreanaz like choking her in the dream sequence.
And actually, if you think about it, it kind of makes in-universe sense that Buffy should be kind of mixing up Angel and the Master, like with these, you know, her fears about Angel as a vampire. And it also kind of has like this weird foreshadowing. Like, I mean, I know they only did it because they didn't want to pay Mark Metcalf to come back for 5 seconds. But I can fan wank this whole, you know, Buffy psychology thing about why she would have the Master kind of look like Angel.
Yeah, that actually works.
That makes a lot of sense.
To their favor. So
yeah,
we're filling in their mythology for them. So I'll buy that.
That's what I do. So that's my job. I fill in their mythology. all the time.
We're like, headcanon time, this is why this actually happened. Not bad writing, but because of this underlying thing.
Or budgetary restrictions. Yeah.
Right, that's
And so we have Willow and Xander telling Buffy all about this whole ceremony that they did to bury the Master's bones. And I mean, like, how much time could they have fucking saved if they had just done what Buffy did at the end of this episode? Because, I mean, they have this whole ceremony with robes and stuff, and the whole thing is taken care of if Buffy just crushes the Master's bones.
And they said that Giles was with them. Like, Giles didn't realize this was a good idea?
I could see Giles going the ritualistic route.
Yeah, I mean,
rather. I mean, he would go like, well, this is what the book says. So this is what, and hey, robes.
Yeah, maybe Miss Calendar was there and he wanted to impress her.
I agree with that one.
Well, I mean, I think, all joking aside, I think it's really probably them setting up a way for Buffy to literally spank her in her Moffat. Moffat. See, there was a Freudian slip there. I said in her Moffat instead of in her Moffat.
Yes.
So that speaks to my feelings about Doctor Who more than anything, I think.
We see Buffy's parents, and this is the last time we will see Hank Summers, and I am so glad.
And he is, yes, but it's weird seeing a sudden appearance of Hank, like some sort of weird, vested, concerned Pokemon parent, because you don't see him again.
I mean, actually, when I was like listening to the conversation, I was like, okay, some of it sounds concerned, but also some of it sounds like super problematic, because he's saying like, I almost wish she were still starting fires because at least I would know how to deal with that. And it's like, okay, so what you want to do is yell at your daughter. You don't want to actually deal with her problems.
Right. And also everything is fixed by shopping, apparently. I mean, granted it's Buffy, so yes, it is, but it's like, and it's a dad thing. Like, most dads don't encourage their daughters to go shopping all the time. I mean, I guess maybe they do in LA, but
well, this is part of it is also, I think, like divorced parent syndrome, where you're competing for.
There was actually a little cut in that scene where Hank says, "Okay, I'm spoiling her. Did I forget to mention that?" And Joyce says, "What you forget is that I'm going to have to deal with another year of Daddy would let me buy that."
But actually, if they'd left that in, I think the scene would have been much better.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
I mean, it's like Hank, it's like he has no idea how to relate to Buffy on any level besides throw money at the problem. So, I know she can't tell him exactly what's going on and like what the specific trauma is, but it sounds like he doesn't even, your daughter's distant and you don't even really try anything more than, I dislike.
Yeah, well, I mean, we do find out that when Buffy did try to tell him, he locked her up.
Mm-hmm. True, very true.
Yeah, no, he's a horrible person, and I'm really glad he's gone, and that we are getting more of the Buffy and Giles father-daughter, dynamic.
Because Giles starts spotting it right away. he's like, I think there's something going on here because, Xander and Willow are like, she's possessed. And Giles is like, no, she's processing trauma. Yeah. She's not doing it in a healthy way.
Yeah.
And I'm a little angry at Buffy in this episode. But
Well, I think
Giles sees it like immediately because he's so in tune with sort of her emotional, like he's just way more in tune with Buffy and pays attention to her emotional life way more than Hank does.
Oh yeah. And on that note, honestly, I think that's my favorite thing about this episode is that it plants the seeds firmly. There's no hint of it, of Buffy's sort of long-term PTSD. Not just from the trauma of dying and being resurrected. Well, resuscitated at the very least. But from just the horrific life she leads as a girl, like just as a child. And I think it was kind of, I don't remember much of television at that time, but I think it was kind of brave of the writers. And I don't know if it was intentional or not. I don't know if it was just for good dramatic television's sake, or, and later on they were like, oh, we've got something here, or they realized it immediately. But to like very upfront say this person's traumatized and they're not dealing with it in a healthy way.
Well, considering Joss had sort of pitched it as, high school as a horror film, I think some of it was at least some of it was intentional. Just because she's not your normal girl. I mean, she's not somebody who's just, she was, but then she isn't. And I think that's what he was trying to push. But I think the PTSD thing of being a slayer and just her whole life does tend to explode, and the arc gets bigger and bigger as the show goes on.
Yeah, the way they handled it, in particular this episode, the actual physical act of destroying what was troubling her, not necessarily, in my opinion, as far as like genuine therapy is concerned, the best way. I do think they handle it with more care and more in depth through the seasons, but especially in season 6. Also not necessarily healthy, but they really do examine how these things affect people long term. But it was made for a great visual regardless. And a couple of good jokes.
This is one of my least favorite episodes. I mean, it's not Teacher's Pet bad, because that is, if you listeners, that is my litmus test for all episodes. But I don't know, it misses the mark in a lot of ways for me. And trauma and PTSD, it's a thing, and people act out because of it. But I don't always give people a pass for being an asshole. Like, just again, I worry about Buffy, I worry about people that have PTSD and trauma, but I don't like it as using it as an excuse to be a dick.
No, I agree with you on that, but I think they're still trying to find their feet in terms of the show. I mean, this is just the beginning of season 2, and let's face it, I mean, Buffy is an asshole at times. She's not, she's our protagonist, she's our heroine, but there are times where she's an absolute pain in the ass, are really messed up too. So, but I think that makes her more real. And actually, one of the things watching it that I didn't say, Buffy, this is a really weird thing to admit, but Buffy is like my least favorite character on the show. But watching it this time, I'm actually liking her more. I'm liking Sarah Michelle Gellar's performance more, and I'm like noticing more nuances. And and the same thing where you don't always like her, but you understand why she's going through what she's going through. So,
yeah, I think the problem here is really that her assholishness is it's really very one note. There's no depth to it. It's just like, oh, we're gonna make Buffy a bitch for an episode.
Though here's the one thing that I noticed, and like I don't know, other people might disagree with me on this. It's like some of the lines that Buffy says that it's like, oh my god, Buffy is that made Xander and Willow say, oh my god, Buffy's possessed, are lines that Buffy would say just normally in later seasons. When dealing with, especially with like Spike and stuff. I mean, granted, they do have a very confrontational relationship, but she does get a lot coarser as the series goes on. So,
the other thing that I noticed, I love Buffy. She is my everything, the actual character. But something wasn't working about Sarah's acting for me. And I'm usually the one that's like, no, she's so like amazing. And we always talk about this person and this person being so great, but I think Sarah's so great. Some of her movements and some of her it was very like proto Catherine from Cruel Intentions. She does this sexy thing when she's mad, and like that can also be accounted for in directing. Like Joss could have pulled it back, but this is. I'm not crazy about Sarah's acting.
This is
in this
Joss's second outing for directing, and I'm also wondering just exactly how long it had been since they had filmed, because they did do all 13 of them before they aired anything. So it might have almost been like close to a year between the filming of season 1 and season 2. So
she was trying to find her legs again?
Point.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, and the show has to sort of, you know, it was a 13 episode, very short season. I'm pretty sure it played in reruns over the summer, so maybe new viewers could be found. But pretty much any season premiere has to sort of reset up the world in some kind of way, and what our rules are and who the people are. And, you know, and I just, Buffy season premieres aren't that good.
I was going to say that too. I've never cared for
the only one I love is Anne. Anne is the only one that stands out to me as something I really, really like that episode. But the rest, I'm always like, oh yeah, that was a premiere.
I could see that, yeah. And I mean, it's the same thing with Angel. The Buffyverse has never really been good with their premieres.
And since we were talking about assholishness and stuff, one of the things that I made notes of, well, two things actually. One is that we're talking about Joss directing. And I made a note, which was interesting. I just thought that Buffy, it reminded me very much of like the intro of Black Widow in the first Avengers film. I don't know why, but there was something like he like kind of directed her the way I felt like he directed Scarlett Johansson in the Avengers. And I don't know whether it was just the action or just the vibe of it, but it was kind of weird. And the other thing was that I really, really love Cordelia in this. I mean, I'm kind of a Cordy fan.
Oh yeah,
so great.
That whole thing, like that whole scene of get over it after the bronze. I was just like, you know, Cordy, you're a bitch and a half, but you are awesome here. You know, she's the only one that'll basically call Buffy out. Everybody else is coddling her and giving her. Even Willow, and I mean, it kills me that, you know, Buffy treats Willow this way, in terms of dancing with Xander. And then Cordy, like, jumps on her, and granted, it's partially because Cordy wants to go after her, but she's also, like, basically telling her the truth, and nobody else will call her on it.
Going back to awesome. Cordy's first scene, when they're first establishing everybody at Sunnydale, and she's talking about her trip to Tuscany, and she's like, but then I think something like that builds character, but then I already have a lot of character. Is it possible to have
too much character? Yeah, I mean the Cordy's brilliant in this episode. She's really great, and she's a little more layered. Like that scene where they tell her, like, "Hey, you can't say vampire that loud," and yeah, she's mean. She says, "Well, like I would want people to know I hung out with you," but at the same time, she kind of takes a moment and says, "Yeah, no, okay, I get it." And since I'm the one that tracks this episode totally passes the Bechdel test.
It
because
does.
That Cordy scene. There's one with Buffy's mom, but the scene, they're not talking about boys or not. Cordelia's like, dude, like, and I don't hear Cordelia even saying get over it. She says embrace the pain, spank your inner Moffat, like embrace it and do not like, hey Buffy, just get over this shit. It's more like, you gotta live with this. You gotta figure out. But that's a brilliant scene.
Yeah, but the first line is, you know, get over it, and then she nuances it. The other thing also, just the line about the squiggly demons. I don't know why that line made me laugh. I love it. And like squiggly demons. Okay, that's like a new phrase for me. Everything's gonna be squiggly demons.
This is also really great because Cordy's end scene, I think, really is a testament to her kind of incredible resilience. She really, really rolls with the punches. Right? Yeah. Like her viewpoint in this, her sort of completely altered reality is very accepting, which for someone they sort of paint initially as this sort of two-dimensional mean girl is great.
Well, I mean, like, everybody makes a big deal about Oz's acceptance of vampires because he does have a great scene. But Cordelia's reaction is so nothing that we never actually see her reacting to find out the vampires are real. She just kind of rolls with it. It's just like, I'm just going to try biting this guy because see how you like it.
Right, and I love her line. It's like, you can dry clean till Judgment Day, but you were living with those stains. It's so amazing. Like, because she's like, yeah, that was kind of terrible. Didn't like being hung upside down. This is, you know, but look, I'm really more worried about my clothes.
Look, Cordy has her priorities. And her clothing are are right up there.
And it's a bonding exercise for all of these people to hang upside down and, really get to know each other as a group, because now Cordelia and Jenny are really kind of part of the group.
And speaking of bonding, how cute is that scene between Giles and Jenny at the beginning, especially with, Principal Snyder. And of course, I'm an Armin Shimmerman fan. I love him to bits. And just like that whole scene and the whole hormonal time bomb thing, it's just, that scene is beautiful. And unfortunately, knowing what's coming up, it's ripping my heart out. Whereas the first time I didn't know. So I kind of like got caught up in it, even though I should have known, because like I said, I was watching two things at once. But just like Giles and Jenny, like forever hardy eyes and soft filters and all that stuff.
Giles being just unable to like make words is just such... and like not liking the idea of Burning Man, but then it's like naked.
Because he turns into Xander at that moment, like naked. I'm a 16-year-old boy now. Naked. Yeah, there are two really great Giles character dichotomy moments. That, of course, I'm also the Giles Luster.
You are so not alone.
God, go figure. Like, he has that great, sweet, adorable scene with Jenny, and it's just like, oh my God, you're the cutest thing right now. And I know it's totally problematic. What I'm going to say is totally problematic. But in the dream sequence, when he starts choking her, I'm like, oh. Because you get that the Ripper face, that like super serious, intense Ripper face. So I'm... Yeah,
before they peel off a mask to reveal another mask.
Right. But yeah, it was pretty great. Giles is pretty great.
Yeah.
I think my favorite thing about that scene is it made me realize how the older I get, the more I identify with Snyder. I was like, oh yeah, youths. I live in a college town.
At the very least, as I get older, I identify with Giles, but...
Oh yeah,
I'm definitely with
Snyder.
Jeez. This episode has one of my favorite Giles Snyder interactions.
I know which one it is.
Where it's like I can smell it. It's like a sixth sense. That would be one of the 5, and that's one of my favorite Snyder exchanges in the whole series.
I also love in that first scene when, Giles like wanders off with Jenny. Snyder's just there monologuing, and then he looks around and he's like, I might as well be talking to myself.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
it's a brilliant comedy moment. And like I said, I love Shimmerman, so he just plays that whole, he sells it so well.
Perfect.
Oh yeah.
He's perfect.
Yeah, and it's good writing by Giles.
It is, and he plays off Tony Head really well, and we see that in Band Candy.
Oh yeah.
They work well together.
Oh, and Burning Man facts. I went and looked at this because I realized I didn't know when Burning Man started, and it started a long time ago, like in the 80s.
Yeah, oh, wow.
Which I didn't realize. However, I did notice that right around this time, 1997 is the first year where Burning Man was not in the open desert, but in a fenced-off compound. So Jenny... If this is Jenny's first Burning Man, she's not going for the original Burning Man experience.
Ooh.
She's not really a hipster. She wasn't there before it was a thing.
Right.
She might have been. This may not have been Jenny's first.
It's unclear.
Bacchanal.
It's unclear. But the way she talks about it, it sounds like it may be her first.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, what we will find out later on in the season is that she is, a Romani. So it's very possible that, she is... was not in the country at the time, of any other Burning Mans. I don't know, they act, all things considered, they go very light on what Jenny/Gianna's backstory is. I mean, we know that she is a Kalderash, but that's kind of all we know. We don't know if, she is, from, an American, part, because, I mean, she has the accent or anything. We don't know if she's putting that on or what.
I always thought she was American. I don't know.
Yeah.
Train of thought lost.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
No, I do exactly know what you're talking about, though.
Yeah. Because her uncle has an American accent, right?
No, he's pretty.
He has that weird, terrible... Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Vaguely Eastern European accent,
Eastern
maybe.
European, even though you know that actor's totally not, because he's in everything.
Yeah. I think he's actually passed on now. When they were filming the initial scene in the school, I was super noticing the difference in production value between season 1 and season 2. Everything is opened up more. The camera is moving a lot, and this is the first episode where you get to see the lounge that people hang out in a lot. Everything is brighter and just bigger, and I just don't feel things are as, closed in. Like, they don't do all these tight shots because they only have, 3 feet of hallway or something.
So, obviously, bigger budget, bigger...
Yeah.
Yeah, I was under the impression that when they decided to commit to another season, they were like, okay, we're going to throw more resources at this.
They got a full season order also.
Yeah, it was full season order.
They definitely had the money.
Yeah.
And, of course, when you mentioned the lounge is, of course, where they talk at full volume about Buffy being possessed, despite their admonitions to Cordelia earlier in the episode.
And Willow earlier in the episode.
Yes, I hate when they do that. It's like, this is one of my big problems with Supergirl. The Supergirl series is I stopped watching after a few episodes because the writing was really bad. I wanted to like it so much, and the writing was horrible. But one of the things was, it's like, they talk about Kara being Supergirl at full volume in public all the time.
Yeah, no, I think we have to accept the idea that a lot of people in Sunnydale actually do know that Buffy is the Slayer. They just don't talk about it. Because, actually, Jonathan does bring that up in his prom speech, that,
Yes, no, that does eventually become canon, but at this point, it's kind of like, with the admonition to Cordelia earlier and to Willow, it's like, that's a little too close together for you to be ignored.
To me, I almost did it in a Doctor Who sort of way, that whole, not perception filter, but the whole, weird shit is going on, but it's so weird that your mind just kind of blanks it out. So even if people hear them, they're just not hearing it. They're basically hearing watermelon, cantaloupe, watermelon, cantaloupe.
Yeah.
Because to actually process their vampires, their demons, or this and that would drive everybody crazy, and it would be chaos. So therefore, people know it, but they don't know it.
Yeah, TV tropes used to call it Sunnydale syndrome. In Douglas Adams, it was the somebody else's problem filter, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. That definitely does come up, and it comes up in a lot of different things. During the whole training montage, I hate that I was able to do this, but I kept on going. It's like, hi, Sophie Crawford, and hi, Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Oh, man, the stunt matching on this show has never been that great. It gets a little better in 6 and 7, but... yeah, there are times we used to do a drinking game when I was in college when we watched these, going Sophie Crawford, Sarah Michelle, Sophie. I'm like, man, we could get pretty drunk. By the end of
it's so
that.
ridiculous if you actually look back at interviews from back in those days, because they did make a big deal about, Sarah does her own stunts, and that's actually why Sophie ended up quitting eventually, is because she wasn't really getting a lot of credit for her work. But it's it's right there.
Yeah, that seemed to have been a standard trope at the time too, because I was a big Babylon 5 fan. I remember reading an interview with Gina Davis talking about one of her movies and how she did all her own stunts. And Patricia Tallman was on Babylon 5, but she also had been a stunt woman. Basically shredded her about the fact that Gina Davis is not doing it, and why she's taking credit for what stunt people are doing.
Yeah.
So this was and that again the same time period. It was the 90s, where I guess it was we don't talk about stunt people; they don't actually exist. They're like vampires. They're demons. It's just everybody does their own stunts, and there's no insurance issues. And please.
Yeah, well, there's still a lot of issues with that these days, because they don't want to put in a stunt person category in the Oscars, best stunt work, because they don't want to admit that actors don't do their own stunts, and it's everybody knows this. Come on, it's ridiculous. I actually have a lot of respect for Quentin Tarantino in this one case.
I was about to say Tarantino.
Yeah, because when it came to Kill Bill and everything, Uma Thurman's stunt person, Zoe Bell, he basically wrote an entire movie just to be this was Uma Thurman's stunt woman, and she's so awesome that I want to do an entire movie that's just her doing stunts. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's very upfront about that.
Yeah, and I think when Xena, which was also going on around the time, and I think it may have been Zoe Bell who was actually
Zoe Bell was
Lucy Lawless's stunt person too. But they talked about her a lot, and I think she actually got some speaking roles every once in a while. They'd sneak her in as like an extra. Yeah. But they admitted it there, like when Lucy was doing stuff and when she wasn't. So it's just ridiculous that Buffy that was going on at the same time couldn't admit that.
Yeah.
It doesn't ruin the mystique of it, y'all. We know it's not real.
Yeah.
Nobody here is confused about that.
We see Sophie's face, and then Angel's stunt double. We'll get to it in Becoming. Dude, you can tell that those are... It's really poorly...
Yeah.
The stunt matching is poorly done on Buffy. It's one of my biggest criticisms of the show.
Yeah. I mean, part of it might be because Buffy was kind of just at the start of the rewatchability of shows. Like, I mean, they did do reruns, but Buffy was kind of where you started to get stuff that would come out on VHSs that were actually affordable to buy, you know, instead of being like hundreds of dollars. So people could watch them over and over again a lot more and be like, oh, you know what, I noticed this moment where that's totally not them.
Yeah, during this training montage, one of the things I was trying to figure out, but I was watching it on my laptop, so I didn't have like a great view of things. I was trying to figure out whether that was Tony Head that was getting thrown around or whether it was stunt double also, because I could definitely tell that it was Sarah's stunt double. But it was like, yeah, Giles gets thrown, or this is that. Is that Tony or is that somebody else? So it was.
Oh yeah, I've never noticed with the stunts. I've never. Yeah, with Tony and with Nikki, I the stunt matching seems to be better. I mean, I know later on in the run that, you know, Nikki's twin brother will do some of his stunts. But at this point, that hadn't happened yet, and I haven't noticed, you know. So, or I never noticed Willow's. So that's interesting. Yeah. But yeah, Buffy and Angel, bad.
Yeah. Well, I think they it was probably harder to find stunt doubles for them because they needed people who matched up to them somewhat and were also capable of doing all of the stuff. Meanwhile, for the other folks, it was more, we need somebody who looks like them who can be thrown around, which is a lot less demanding.
Right. Yeah. Than the actual fights, yeah. I mean, and Sarah Michelle Gellar is a pretty tiny person.
I was going to say, it's got to be hard to match her because she's...
It's hard matching someone so tiny, actually, yeah. They do a way better job with it on Angel. But they kept the same stunt double for that for the whole time. And I think that stunt person moved over to Bones with David later
Probably.
For a while, yeah.
Wonder if he's going to stay with David for this new show that he's got going on. He's apparently got...
David has
a new show that's been picked up for the fall season, yeah.
I saw something about it, but I don't know anything about what the show is, so...
I didn't even hear about it.
I don't know anything about it other than it's happening, and I'm super, super surprised, and I'm really sorry for saying this, David, but I'm surprised that he is the one that is not only getting, like, had this show do this whole run, like, because Bones was on, I think, even longer than Angel was. It was on for, like, 7 years.
11 years.
It was on for 11 years? Yeah. Wow.
No. Bones was on for a long time.
And now, immediately, he's got another show. And at during the first season of Buffy, I never would have thought that David would be the one to come out with regular work after it.
I know, right? 12 seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, 12 seasons of Bones. So, yeah, I know it's odd that he would, you know, Allison did well with, you know, How I Met Your Mother.
And Seth is doing his thing. I mean, you know, how many years has Robot Chicken been on?
So. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think everybody, sadly, it's everybody except Nikki is doing really well. And that's mostly because Nikki has his demons.
Yes, he does.
I mean, and Romeo de la Morte, obviously, because she found religion and I guess got out of acting in general.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think she's doing like sermons and stuff.
I mean, Nikki's done some stuff.
He was on Criminal Minds for a while.
Yeah, right. He was a semi-regular on Criminal Minds for a while.
Yeah,
quite a while.
Yeah, I think everybody's doing stuff. It's just like David, for some reason, ended up being the most prominent, other than I guess Allie. But even Allie, How I Met Your Mother was very successful, but that's been off the air for a while now.
Yeah, I mean, I think Sarah and Allie, especially Sarah, at one point, once her kids were born, she's taken a lot less work. Like, I totally support her decision to be like, you know, she wrote a cookbook. Sarah's cookbook just came out, so,
And unfortunately, there is the women after 35.
Yeah.
Right.
curse.
Yeah.
Speaking of David Boreanaz, I just looked it up. It says SEAL Team, the lives
Yes.
of the elite Navy SEALs as they train, plan, and execute the most dangerous, high-stakes missions our country can ask. That's from IMDb. So,
Yeah, I'm skipping that one. I'm skipping that. That doesn't seem like my cup of tea,
No,
but
mine either.
good for David. So this episode,
Yes, we were talking about an episode. So this episode is landmark in that this is the first episode where I actually recognized the band in it.
yay!
Yay!
I obviously did, and that was one of the things that got me into the show too when I started to do the rewatch, because I actually am a big Cibo Matto fan. I have all their stuff, and as I was gushing in my messages, that baby bass player, Sean Taro Ono Lennon.
Yep.
I'm kind of big fan of his work too, and I've seen him play with his mom, so I was like really excited about Cibo being involved.
I, however, feel cheated because there was no clog.
True.
Well, you should ask him about that on Twitter or on Facebook. He talks to people. So.
Though the numbers that they do are some of the best numbers. I think they are. I would say in the top. The performance of Sugar Water is in the top 10 of all of the performances on Buffy.
Oh yeah,
I just think the whole scene, not just the band, but just the whole scene in the bronze, is very, very atmospheric, and everything works beautifully.
Yeah.
Cibo Matto can clog dance is probably one of my top 10 favorite lines of the entire, and the way Willow says it, Cibo Matto can clog dance, it's adorable, and it's one of my favorite lines.
I think you should write a song for ukulele called Cibo Matto.
Called Cibo Matto can clog dance. Yes. All right, let me make a note of that. Ukulele song about Cibo Matto. Yeah. And then I can just bang on the back of the ukulele on a break, pretending they're clog dancing. I love it.
Oh, I expected you to actually clog dance. Okay, am I asking too much?
No. No. So, yeah, Cibo Matto, they're great.
Yeah, no, it's a really great scene. Since we are at the music part, I will mention the songs that happened in this episode. We had Spoon by Cibo Matto, and then, of course, Sugar Water. And we also had It Doesn't Matter by Alison Krauss. So, actually, there's two
beautiful
performances from people that I recognize, because I of course, know Alison Krauss as well.
Oh, Alison Krauss is, legendary. She's amazing.
But, I mean, I guess we're getting a little more of a budget, or maybe I was just a little more hip to what was going on, but a lot of the stuff that happened in season 1, had no idea who they were at the time and have no idea who they are now.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I mean, I was trying to check, talking of music, just at the very end, there's when they're sort of everything is working out, there's that whole piano thing, and it sounds very Bruce Hornsby, and I really didn't, I should check the timing, because I was like, that sounds like Bruce Hornsby, but I don't think it is. I think it's just the incidental music, but for some reason it just kind of...
Oh, that after school special music?
Yeah, when she's
at the very end.
When she's sitting in the lounge. Yeah.
Oh, I always think that the very end of the episode where they're like, "We saved you a seat," and they sort of make up that little play out music is the most after school special. It's terrible.
But we do have to bring up for incidental music. We have to bring up that Christoph Beck is finally doing the music.
Right. It's interesting because I actually noted this time that maybe Christoph is just getting his feet, but the music in this episode is pretty heavy-handed.
I feel like they're trying to find, it's almost like a bridge between the super B-movie music of the first season and what Christoph will eventually give us. Because, I mean, I was kind of critical on the music in the first season because it was very heavy and B-movie. Yeah. And then Christoph will eventually get, the beautiful, iconic tracks. And this is... It's a little better than it was in the first season, but it's still kind of... I think he was watching the first season as okay, so this is what I gotta do, so...
I think so, too. Yeah.
Yeah, because, we were saying the play-out music, I mean, I'm suddenly hearing this, sort of, poppy, perky piano riffs, and I'm like, what is this? We're kind of have an emotional moment here, and all of a sudden, dot, 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 what?
It's very, that last play out music is very after school special. And I found it really heavy handed. I think he is still figuring it out, but we all know that Kristoff will get amazing pretty quickly.
Yeah.
He's so
I think
so good.
by the middle of this season, we will be hearing him as...
And the themes will start coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that little riff he does, I think is it in Surprise when Xander and Cordelia confronts her group of friends about her feelings towards Xander, and she sort of walks away. They walk away sort of triumphantly. That little bit of music right there is probably some of my favorite throughout the show, barring, of course, the musical episode. We'll talk about that eventually.
And yes, after the whole dance sequence, but in terms of the dance sequence, I mean, like, okay, I don't want to criticize Angel, except I do want to criticize Angel. He's already had this bad experience with Buffy, which, by the way, was totally creepy, where he's, like, in her bedroom, and it's like...
yes.
Oh my God!
Can I say something?
Yes.
When I saw that scene, because I made a note.
Did you write down Edward Cullen?
Yeah, just like, I remember,
Thank
if
you,
you
me
think
too.
about
Yeah,
all
me
the
too.
crazy Twilight fans who were always complaining about how cool Buffy was as compared to Twilight, because, Edward was always creeping on Bella and hanging out in her bedroom. I'm like, this is the same damn thing. This is that Twilight moment, and don't tell me that Buffy was this great, empowering thing, which of course it is, but at that moment it was so not.
At the very least, she does call him out on it, but she only does that because she is in her, traumatized, attack the world mood. But okay, Angel supposedly came in because he needs to warn Buffy about the Anointed One, but he's just standing in her fucking window watching her sleep.
Like, if she hadn't woken up from her bad dream, would he have just stood there? Like, that's...
Like I said, it was totally a Twilight moment.
Like, would he have woken her up? Or, it's very,
Well, I guess he doesn't really have much else to do. So I'll just stand here.
16-year-old girl sleeping. I'm sorry, that's fucking creepy.
Oh, wait.
Very creepy.
Yeah, it's never...
the worst.
It's really watching other people sleep. I mean... Sometimes you look over at your partner and you're still awake and you're like, oh, what a cute sleeper. But I live with that person, like, I'm not standing there over the bed watching them like my cat does.
Especially, like, looming through a window and just, like, watching through the window is even creepier than standing over them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only being that's allowed to, like, stand over me and watch me sleep
River
is the cat, and even that's kind of creepy sometimes.
Yeah, that's creepy when that happens.
I'm like, what? You're just being weird right now. Stop being Edward. I've told her before, but she won't. Like, she doesn't listen.
Now, my literal note for that moment, for that timestamp is, God, Angel, creep much?
Yeah.
Because rewatching him, getting back into the slang a little bit, which is...
I also think he's a little creepy at the Bronze, because he's had this big, like, fight with Buffy, and so then he's just kind of lurking at the Bronze, and at this point, they haven't really established that the Bronze is an all-ages club. They're not really going to get into that until they go into... into college. Right now it just seems like a teen club, and so you have like 26-year-old Angel just kind of hanging out there waiting for the 16-year-old girl that has yelled at him, and it's like, Angel, you're creepy. They're still trying to figure out Angel. I am going to be very rough on Angel until we get to Surprise and Innocence, because for this, for the first half of this season, when they are really pushing the forbidden love romantic part, I could not stand it at all.
Yeah.
And at least, like, after we'll get to them, the Angelus part of things, which is fucking brilliant. And at least season 3 is more about deconstructing how they absolutely will not work. But for this first half of the season, I find it really intolerable. Yeah.
Also, outside, I have a nitpick. Outside the Bronze, when she says, well, you're a vampire, or is that not acceptable term anymore? Should I say undead American?
He's not American, he's Irish.
Yes, exactly.
But does she know that yet?
Yeah, kind of.
I guess,
I don't think she knows it.
Yeah. I guess she doesn't know that, but damn it, he's not an American. As far as I know, I don't believe he ever got citizenship here.
Deport him!
She might know, because they They did do research on him. Well, I mean, to be fair to him, he shouldn't go back to Ireland because then he'll use the accents. Nobody wants that.
God, no.
Oh, no.
Nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that.
It is genuinely tragic.
That's like bringing David Tennant here. Don't do it. No.
I think I could stomach Tennant's American accent more than I could stomach.
No.
Irish.
No. I mean, I love David Tennant, but his American accent is abysmal.
Agree.
It's like Benedict Cumberbatch too. That's the other one I can't handle. His American accent is just really bad.
He's still better than David Boreanaz.
Oh well, yeah, I'm better than David Boreanaz.
David Boreanaz is so bad at the Irish accent that Joss wrote around it for when the episode when he lost his memory and he was supposed to be Irish. It's like, where's my accent? And it's like, you've never had one in the first place.
Yeah, I have a better Irish accent than David Boreanaz.
Yeah,
I haven't done one in a long time. See, that's
Lucky from
terrible.
Lucky Charms has a better accent than David Boreanaz.
Right. And wasn't his first wife Irish or something?
Oh my God, was she?
I think she was Irish American. I don't know if she was straight up Irish.
Okay, I thought she was Irish, so anyway. So I think we need to talk about the problematic sexy dance.
Oh, yes.
We can talk about that.
You mean the excellent lighting in that scene, or just the grossness of the scene in general?
It's so gross. I mean, and I have a note that says bad Joss, because it is so male gaze.
I mean, but the thing is, I'm watching this, and if you look at it as a whole, it's like Xander's going along with it because he's a 16-year-old boy. But if you look at his face, even he looks uncomfortable.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's very.
If this was CinemaSins, we would point out that Xander has a very confused boner at the moment.
Yeah.
It's just it's really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
The whole thing,
It's
and
very
of course, she is being horrible to Xander because it's all about getting him all worked up and then going, well, don't you wish I would? Thank you. And then going away. And also, just she's being horrible to Willow.
Oh, God.
Because she knows how Willow feels about Xander.
Because you mentioned Willow. Sorry, just the look on Allison Hannigan's face. I mean, that's just beautiful acting because that's stunned, what the hell are you doing face? Just that one shot, kills me.
Yeah, well, that's Allie's stock and trade. That's one of her. That's one of her just things you just oh, that's something we need. Give it to
Her
Allison
eyes
Hannigan.
are twice the size of a regular person.
No, she's got Disney eyes, yeah.
Yes, not the size of a regular person's eyes, but twice the size of a regular person. It is
Right. In that little tiny body, too.
Yeah.
And so it makes them even bigger because she's so little.
But also, this sort of Xander's sort of, I don't know if I want to say complacency here, but he has this trend, or it's been written, this trend of Xander not necessarily giving vocal and outright and enthusiastic consent when it comes to
very true
the women in his life. It's a series long trend, which is alarming.
Yeah, I want to say that I think it's a little bit of, it's a stereotype and it's not a fair stereotype of the geek boy who's happy to get anything, any kind of attention or physicality or whatever. So I'll take it, and being very passive, but it's not good. It's not a nice thing to do. So yeah.
Yeah, and this is one instance where that comes up, but he's still not comfortable with it. It's like we're using the geek boy stereotype was well, okay, a woman is touching me, so that's good, but this isn't right.
Yeah.
which is unusual in
coming from a world of weird science-esque ideas of what geek boys do for sex, Revenge of the Nerds and weird science. You have Xander, who's very clearly uncomfortable with Buffy's sort of performative hypersexuality. So.
But at the same time, he's fixated on her because he's already blown Willow off with the ice cream thing, and kind of watching her around. So it's doubly creepy because he's not that he's asking for it, but he's already been focusing on her, and then this thing happens. So
it's kind of he's finally got what he wanted, but it's not what he expected.
Not what he wanted.
Right.
Yeah.
Or be careful what you wish
Absolutely.
for.
Yeah.
Well, he learns that in depth later. So.
Yeah, you're right, Logan. That's such a good point about, Xander's lack of real enthusiastic consent in many situations with pretty much everyone he...
At several different points, he's literally prey.
Yeah.
And we can sort of go into, I imagine we'll definitely go into in depth the issue of his potential rape later on in the series.
Yeah, no, this is something that I've talked about on my YouTube series before. Joss's sexual assault of men is actually, in a way, worse than any of the sexual assaults that have happened on women, because a lot of times they are gone through to completion, while most of the time women are just threatened with it, while guys, not only does it actually happen, but it never actually gets properly acknowledged as an assault.
Absolutely.
Well, I was going to say, I think he kind of looks at it as in a weird way of like geek boy wish fulfillment, but it's not, but in the real world, that's not how it works, or it shouldn't work.
Yeah.
No, I agree
and again,
with you.
as I pointed out earlier, just the direction of the sexy dance scene, it's so that base level male gaze filmmaking. And I'm like, Joss, know better, do better.
Yeah. But I do think Nikki's, whether it was direction on Joss's part or written in the script, I do think his act, the way he acted that scene, as David pointed out, is very subtle and poignant, how uncomfortable he looks.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Nikki's really good. And even the next day when, they're like, she's possessed, and he's like, but have we stopped to consider that she's wildly attracted to me? And then he goes, yeah, she's possessed. Like,
even he can't believe that for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
But he's trying to play it off with a funny Xander joke, which is what he does, and that's how he sort of deals with the world.
But in
even
this
like,
case,
you're right,
he can't even sustain that.
Yeah, he can.
And there is one of my favorite lines in the morning after, when Xander hears Willow spell out bitch, and he's like, Bitka?
I know, that's actually it's wonderful. Like, I don't like this episode very much as a whole, but man, the one-liners are amazing. Cordy's one-liners, Xander's, they're really good.
Everybody gets their moment, yeah.
That was my reaction, is that this is not a great episode, but there are a lot of good pieces.
I still use Bitka to this day, because
me too.
it is a
Absolutely.
nice way to use that word without so much of the misogynistic baggage that comes with it. So,
right, yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, no, I use it frequently. Also,
I think we're gonna have to start.
Yep. Yeah, me as well, Jan.
But yeah, no, I mean, I could definitely see where that dance sequence, just the filming of it, is uncomfortable in many ways. Like, I mean, in watching it, I'm like, oh my god, she's basically giving him a standing up lap dance.
Yep.
Yeah.
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 Buffy grinding in the club before it got popular. Yeah, she's the OG.
And then, of course, it's like that sequence is also used, I think, for the next, 5 years, 6 years?
Yeah.
It's always in the opening credits, too. So it's like, oh, we're so proud of this.
It's usually one of the
again.
close-ups, though. So, but it's still very iconic.
Squicky. Yeah, but iconic.
I think even though it was, if we're sort of, I don't know, this may not be pertinent since we've sort of moved past this, but we talk about really good Xander Willow moments. It's just occurred to me, even though it was in Buffy's dream, the moment of them switching snacks.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Really
Yeah, no, I like that.
It's great.
I love that, yeah.
And I think that's sort of, you can attribute it to Buffy sort of subconsciously picking up on their sort of long-term in like relationship with each other.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I actually, there were a couple of scenes in that dream sequence that I really liked, and I mean, we're talking about, like, Xander lines and stuff. I actually really like the line, we're bosom friends, the friends of your bosom.
Friends of your bosom. I love that. I do love that line.
Yes. But yeah, bosom. Xander is 6 years old.
Well, he
still.
is, though.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, this is what Buffy thinks Xander is like.
True. Very, very true.
That's true, yeah. But she's not wrong.
No, she really's not.
No.
I have a friend that's used that line on me many times. He's like, you're my bosom friend of your bosom.
Right.
I've used it before.
Yeah, he's a drag queen, so it's not like I feel like he's taking any kind of weird advantage of, like, he's not being gross. He just likes Buffy too. So
the other thing along the lines is I love Willow and Xander's like sitting there passively and just watching as Giles is like, choking her, and they're just eating their snacks and watching like it's a normal thing. It's just it's very, very dark humor and great. This is when you know what's going on.
That's a really nice moment. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Beyond dark humor, I think it's really important, especially the line he says while he's still Giles. What is it? Something about killing her the first time?
I killed you once, and doing it again shouldn't be that difficult.
I wonder if it's not sort of a subconscious blame.
I was thinking that as well.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Yeah.
One of my other favorite lines of this episode. This episode has great one-liners.
Well, it's Josh.
When she goes, it's right. She's like, it's entirely pointy.
Yes.
She's talking about it being pointless or something. She's
yes.
Like, no, it's entirely pointy.
I really liked when they send the note about Cordelia, and they said, come after dark or we make her a meal. And Xander says, they're going to cook her dinner.
They're going to cook her dinner?
and again, even he's like, oh, I can't believe
Nikki's
I just...
delivery is pitch perfect on that line. Like,
yeah, I have many problems with Xander, but Nikki's delivery of one-liners, I never really have a problem
he's really
with.
good
He's
on that.
so great.
Yeah, I do have a bit of a nitpick, and this is like not like an outward mistake, but it's more of an editing/writing thing. I feel they made a mistake on the closest/nearest reveal, because I mean that's actually a very good twist on everything. But they had that scene where Cordelia finds that they've also taken Miss Calendar, and they don't mention that they've taken Miss Calendar in the note. You never find out that they've taken Miss Calendar. So I think it might have been stronger had they set up like that, Cordelia as potential bait, but then it turns out that, they actually need to take her for this ritual, and maybe had Miss Calendar be taken with Giles and Willow in that scene, so that then they can reveal it's like, oh, it was actually nearest rather than closest. It's just a personal thing, as a writer, looking at twists and everything.
I think, well, as an editor, I think it slips by. I mean, I can see I see your point, but sometimes you have the material you have to work with.
Yeah.
And it's put together in a way that works. Yeah. So again, it's a question that's like, oh yes, we are sitting here and analyzing this. If someone was just watching the episode, that wouldn't be a problem.
No, definitely.
So,
but I'm pointing it out because we're analyzing things, David.
Oh no, absolutely.
Yeah, it's an odd little omission, but it may have even been that there was something there and it just got cut out. It just I never mentioned that. Oh well. We'll fix it in post or nobody.
I think probably what it was is that they didn't want to have Miss Calendar in with the main Scooby Gang, so that they needed to establish that they had taken her.
Right.
But yeah. And
just I gotta say, one of the least favorite phrases editors here is "We'll fix it in post." Yeah. It's oh dear.
As a former editor, that's why I always use that because it's like no, you can't always do this, but. Yeah, we'll fix it in post. The world will fix it in post.
Talking about Xander and his character, the scene that he has with Buffy when he actually after the vampires have taken Giles and Willow, and he tells her off. That is kind of up there with Prophecy Girl when Xander talks to Angel, trying to get Angel to like sack up.
Yeah,
Xander's strengthened that because we know how he feels about Buffy. And he's usually kind of a doormat when it comes to that kind of stuff, especially in these early episodes. And the fact that he is able to stand up to her and basically be, you have been awful, and because you have been awful, our friends are in danger. This is Xander. Xander's grown up.
Well, also, it's interesting. It's like, we always discuss how, terrible it is that Xander clearly knows how Willow feels about him, and he doesn't respond, and it's he's terrible. But when it comes to Willow being in danger, he will get his dander up, and he will just get in your face about it.
Oh yeah,
He is, because he says, it's like, if they hurt Willow, I will kill you.
Which I appreciate the sentiment behind it, and I definitely enjoy seeing Xander not only stand up to Buffy, except for in season 7, in which I have a problem with it, but we'll talk about that in, a year or so. God knows, several years, actually. I appreciate the sentiment, and I do like him sort of having this moment where he's like, oh God, I really care about Willow. I'm like, yeah, stand up. Don't threaten to kill your friends, maybe. Probably.
Well, he's bleeding and angry at this point, so it's...
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I mean, I think it does show what... I mean, yes, he's not oblivious. He totally knows how Willow feels about him. But he also knows how he feels about Willow as a close and lifelong friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's more about that than it is about a romantic thing.
Oh, yeah. I don't think it's a shipper moment at all, because ew.
No, but it's a Xander loyalty moment.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no. It's not a romantic thing. It's that Willow is just one of the most important people in his life. Mm-hmm. And frankly, I think at this point at least, despite his sort of hang-up on Buffy, if he had to, like, choose between protecting one of them, he would protect Willow.
Oh, yeah. You see that in the beginning of the episode. He's like, get back, I'll take on this demon, even though neither one of us can do it.
Yeah.
Well, he also knows that Buffy can take care of herself, but...
Yeah. I think he would... I would actually think he would probably hope... He would try to find a way to protect both of them, because... Just to bring Harry Potter into this, but Xander is such a puff. Xander's a puff.
Yeah. Oh, he's very much a puff, yeah.
Badger represent.
If we're nitpicking, can I ask a question? And this seems like the group to ask. Mm. Is hanging people upside down really the best way to exsanguinate them?
They should ask Riverdale.
I'm asking for research.
Well, I don't know. It depends. Are they kosher or not?
Right. I am guessing that cutting the throat and having that large single exit point probably is useful, because if you're hanging them like head up, like you're cutting their feet, or it just like it doesn't.
You're letting gravity do the work, and literally, I mean, I think I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that is part of like the way that kosher butchers actually slaughter things they do, because it's gravity and it just gets all the blood out as quickly as possible.
I'm also wondering if they need to have like the blood from all of the different people hit the Master's bones at the same time, like so maybe it's part of that.
I was just about to Google best way to exsanguinate someone, and I was like, no, I'm not going to do it.
Probably
this really, I don't think.
You want to go incognito for that, I think. That's,
Right. But I'm sorry. The government can still track that incognito
they
shit,
can.
I swear.
We'll finish it up with, I'm asking for a friend.
There's actually a Tumblr online that they started it because I had suggested it, but it's called It's For a Story. And so it links to a bunch of different, like, weird stuff that it's just like, how to murder somebody, blood spatter, age of consent in different countries. All of this stuff that you don't want to look up.
But you've got to, because you have to know for realism.
Because you have to know for, like, it's for a story, I swear.
And my last nitpick, since we're in that sort of warehouse scene in general, when Buffy goes in with her very great, that'll distract them quip, what does she stake the first vampire with? There's nothing in her hand.
There isn't.
She just punches him and he turns into dust.
And then he hits the tree.
Yeah.
Why is there a tree here? Luck.
She just punches him in the back and then he turns into a vampire. And into dust,
he just poofs. Yeah.
It was a nice scene, though. I like that one.
The very beginning scene where she throws him against the tree, I was a little disappointed that they just had Willow stand there.
Yeah.
Like a damsel in distress with Xander and...
Willow does not stake a vampire until What's My Line Part 2.
Oh. Yeah, but she could have, like... I don't know.
I'm just throwing out.
Like, she did so well in the library with, like, the... penis-y Hellbees.
Yeah.
And she just stands there. She could have... Like, they both would have 100% died if Buffy had...
And it's really sad. Willow does not stake a vampire until until What's My Line Part 2. And it's only because Allie, was like, okay, I've been on this show for like 2 years now. Can I please stake a vampire? And the scene is Giles holding the vampire, and she stakes it.
A lot of the women on this show had to ask before they got to kill things. Because Cordy did Charisma did the same thing. She's like, I want to kill a vampire.
Yeah.
And they don't give it, she says it's for season 3. It's like graduation day part 2 that she really is like, can I please for the first time stake a vampire?
And I really like that staking scene. I know which one it is because I'm that kind of nerd. But yeah, no, I mean that does seem to happen a lot, and it's really I mean if you think about it, I mean okay, it was an accident, but Xander got to kill a vampire in the second part of the first episode.
I know, yeah. And I just assumed that, Giles kills many vampires.
Well, I'm sure he did it under controlled circumstances at the Watchers Academy like Wesley
True.
did.
I was reading an article or listening to something, and I can't remember now. I wish I could find it again. Where I think it was maybe it was Amy Acker having to do the same thing, ask if she could actually kill something.
Would not surprise me, yeah.
Yeah, so that's really weird.
They always seem to want the women to be very fragile unless they were, demons or mostly slayers. Yeah.
Which is an interesting show that sort of has this crux of female empowerment.
Well, because, I mean, here's, the problem, and as much as I love this show and the feminist bent to it, this was not meant to be a feminist show. This was a show meant to deconstruct horror tropes, and it just so happened that the horror trope happened to be a misogynist one. It was Joss wasn't trying to be feminist, he was trying to be clever.
Mm-hmm. Although reading comments, because I was actually reading comments about the show and this episode in general, after the fact he suddenly was throwing in that there were feminist reasons through it all the way through, and I agree with you, I don't think there were at the time. No. But now of course he's sort of like retconning everything to make it sound like he was just so much more enlightened than he was.
That's Joss.
Yeah,
it's
whereas something like Xena, I mean, you always had women that were fighting, and they weren't. I mean, and again, because it was concurrent. I mean, you had two main characters who were always doing something, even when they didn't have the power necessarily. They were still bashing people over the head or breaking pottery or trying to do something. And it did actually bother me that Willow was standing there very passively doing nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think the show does get better, but I think it's still trying to find its feminist feet.
Yeah.
I mean, Joss is, I adore Joss. I love his writing. I love but he's not without his problems. Now, his new commercial for Planned Parenthood is really great, and so I want to give him ups for that, but,
Definitely.
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet.
It's really good.
It's good. I mean, it's very short, but it's like, I'm like, hey, Joss actually directed something. I mean, it's like 4 minutes long, but,
Okay. Question from somebody who actually doesn't know, because I'm not that cognizant of the whole, who was working with. When did people like Marnie Noxon and
this season,
et cetera? Okay, so
this season,
so it's mostly guys working on the show at this point.
Yeah, I think at this point, during season 2, that's when we start to get Marty and Jane, and I mean, let me take a quick look to see. Yeah, I know Marty came on in this season at the very least,
Jane,
and I'm pretty sure Jane did. It might be season 3 with Jane.
Okay, so Marty's first episode is going to be What's My Line? Yeah. Part 1 and 2, and then let me Google Jane Espenson, who's one of my favorites. I adore her. Mm-hmm. And then there'll also be Rebecca Rand
Kirshner. I don't think comes in until later. Look.
Okay, so Jane's first episode is Band Candy.
Yeah, I thought that might be it. Yeah, no, for the most part, it seems like Marty is the female writer who comes in this season, but she's kind of all over this season. If you actually look at, and I mean, we'll be going through each episode and I'll mention who writes everyone, but she wrote a ton of them. Unfortunately, some of them were not so good.
Yeah, she's the only female writer in this season.
Because I think that will have an effect on it. So that's what I was saying. If it's like Dude Fest at that moment in time, it's kind of question. I mean, obviously they just didn't see it, and it's also the 90s, so
Yeah.
Things were questionable back then. I mean, not that they aren't now.
Yeah.
But...
And as we get to later seasons, there eventually will be a point where it's almost parody in terms of female to male writers. Because they did, in seasons like 3 and 4, they do get more female writers that came in. And the female writers that come on tend to stay around, while a lot of the male writers will fall away. They will stay on for like a season and then go off. So.
I think by about season 3 and season 4, they've got a really good stable of recurring writers.
Yeah. I mean, we start to see that in this season, but it's still not quite to the level that we'll get for season 3.
Yeah, because you won't get Petrie on until season 3. Oh, I love Petrie. And I love Drew Goddard. Yeah. And then you will lose Greenwald to Angel.
Yeah. But he's still around in season 3.
But I'm glad to see that we've reversed this ratio for the podcast.
Yeah.
We love you, David. You're our little unicorn man. Meaning like a good dude.
Well, thank you.
That are hard to find sometimes. So it's good to have that perspective on it a little bit too. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so last thoughts on when she was bad.
Meh?
Well, it's an episode.
It is.
It's an opening episode that was reintroducing everybody.
It's an opening episode. Yeah.
And all the concepts again. I think that's you were saying earlier about how the opening season openers are never that great, but I think part of it is because they're, especially for this season, they have to kind of reintroduce you to everything that's going on and what's happened before. So it's not a bad story. It's just that we know now that there's so much more potential, no pun intended, for future future episodes and future seasons. So.
Yeah. I don't tend to skip this one if I'm doing a rewatch.
I do.
This is not one that, I feel is so bad that I just cannot watch it ever again. But I mean, the main reason I watch it is because I like the Cibo Matto performance.
Right? Yeah.
I was just about to say the same thing.
Yeah.
It's got a cool musical. It's a performance, therefore you can't miss it.
Yeah. For me, there's a lot to like here. There's a lot of bits. There's a lot of great dialogue. But overall, it's a workmanlike episode.
Yeah.
It does what it needs to do, but it doesn't do a whole lot more than that.
I think there's a lot of missed potential in this episode, and I want Buffy to deal with her trauma. I do, but I think for the first episode of your second season, there could have been, I think, maybe a little more of the lightness. Like, I'm not saying make it like, I don't know, jazz hands. We'll get that later, but and everything's sunny and bright and wonderful. Deal with some of the things, but it's a misstep for me, and this is one that I don't rewatch very often. If I want Cibo Matto, I just listen to Sugar Water, and it's great.
For me, I tend to have a different viewpoint, not just as the episode in parts, but overall, just because that seems an appropriate way for like a teenager to deal with their trauma. They're not very emotionally mature.
No,
they're gonna, behave recklessly and over sexually, and they'll push away their friends and they'll be mean, and that's just because I've seen it in my personal life. So I don't know if it was due to immature writing or careless writing or it was absolutely intentional. But for me, it works. It's definitely not an episode I skip either. The
other problem with it, again because it's an opening episode and happened a lot, is you had this cliffhanger. You had her dying and coming back, and you have to actually reference it. You have to deal with it. But timing wise, maybe it wasn't always the greatest thing to have her dying at the end of the season and then having to work everything, coming in again next the opener.
And they do it twice.
And I'm curious if part of the reason that we're being very meh on this episode is that we're watching everything just like one after the other. Because originally people would have come to this after a break. And we're sort of like, we just watched Prophecy Girl.
No. We did not just watch Prophecy Girl. We just watched the movie. So we should have an even more favorable opinion of this.
Well, no, okay, no. But I mean, we just recently watched Prophecy Girl. I mean, we watched Prophecy Girl in the last couple of weeks.
Fair enough.
And so, like, coming to this after having just recently seen Prophecy Girl, it's very much a drop in quality. comparatively.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, David. But I do remember when I was so excited that Buffy was getting a second season. I had it set up to record on my VCR. And I remember being disappointed.
Okay.
Like, I was excited it was back, but I remember being like, I've never liked this episode much. So
this season
even with a
does
break.
take a couple episodes, aka 3, to find its feet. So I have some quick little facts for this episode. So this episode on the original airing had 2.9 million people watching it, but actually when they repeated it, it scored higher. It had 3.1 million people watching it. And I think that's probably because when they repeated it, it would have been around like the middle of the season when that was when Buffy really started to take off as like the Buffy phenomenon. This is the first episode where David Boreanaz is credited in the main credits. So he has ascended, and obviously that will be something that will carry through him being on his own show. This is this episode starts the tradition of the season premieres starting in cemeteries.
Right.
And this is the first time that anybody attempts to raise a vampire from the dead. And the vampires in this really should have called Wolfram and Hart, because they're the ones that always do it other times, and they're always fucking successful.
Yeah, which is interesting because Giles specifically says that he's unaware of a revivification ritual ever being successful.
Well, to be fair, I mean, Wolfram and Hart doesn't do it until the season 1 finale of Angel to Shanshu in L.A. So they don't know if one is successful yet, and it's the senior partners who are doing it, and the senior partners are basically old ones. So
yeah, it's just interesting that like Giles seems to say there's never been a successful one, and then all of a sudden, as soon as he says that, we start having potentially or actually successful
Yeah, but
rituals.
Giles doesn't... I mean, I think the council doesn't even know how much Wolfram and Hart can do, because they keep everything super private.
Andie,
Andie,
are you saying something negative about Giles?
she's saying something negative about the Watchers.
Right, they're just keeping him in the dark.
I'm saying something negative. No, I'm saying that Giles doesn't have all the information he needs to make an informed comment. Giles is perfect. I'm obsessed.
I wanted to make sure you were still on the same page about Giles, that's all.
Always and forever. Okay.
More facts?
Yes.
I think I might be done on facts. Except for the title of this episode. The title, When She Was Bad, was derived from a poem by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. And when she was good, she was very, very good. And when she was bad, she was horrid.
Yes.
Yeah.
And of course, there's the Mae West version of that, is when she was good, she was very good. And when she was bad, she was even better. But we will not go there.
Right.
I don't think that really applies to Buffy.
I guess I again, very, very narrow focus and nitpicking. During the opening credits, with the theme song and everything, the shot of Buffy firing the crossbow has a sound effect.
Huh.
I didn't
And
miss
I don't remember that. Yeah, no, it kind of stood out because I was listening to the Nerf herder music, and then there's this whoosh from the crossbow,
There's
and I'm
always
like,
been a whoosh.
has there? Because
I don't know
remember
about the first season, but the second season, because when my friends and I would sit around and watch this together, we would all go, whoo!
Okay, because that was the thing. It's like I don't remember it from the first season.
I don't think it was in the first season, but
and so maybe it continues from here. But this is the first time I noticed it.
I never noticed it, so thank you, David.
Yeah, we would do the whoosh.
Mm-hmm.
Whoosh.
Just end on that.
Okay.
Yes.
Then with that, next time we'll be reviewing Some Assembly Required. So until then, grr, arg.
Grr, arg.
Grr, arg.
Whoosh.
We'd like to thank everyone who downloaded the podcast, and an extra special thanks to everyone who shared, liked, and subscribed on social media. If you'd like your questions or comments read on the show, you can contact us on our website, returntothehellmouth.com, on YouTube at Return to the Hellmouth, on Tumblr and Facebook at Return to the Hellmouth, on Twitter at HellmouthReturn, or on email at returntothehellmouth@gmail.com. We'll be sure to read your comments on the show. Be sure to rate our shows at iTunes and Stitcher. Also check out Emcee's YouTube channel. See you on Tuesday for Some Assembly Required.
Grr.